Okay, let me try this again. I just recorded one and it was way too long, so let me try and condense this. Hi everyone. So I'm going to be talking about the cannabis industry sustainability. So a bit of a background on the cannabis industry. On October 17th, 2018, cannabis became federally legal in Canada. Since then, it has exploded in my home province of Ontario. It feels like there's a dispensary on every block at this point. And that's reflected in the numbers. Between 2018 to 2021, the cannabis industry has supported 15.1 billion in government tax revenues. Despite this fact, its cultivation, processing, and packaging is unsustainable. So why is the cannabis industry unsustainable? Firstly is water consumption. Cannabis is a highly water consumptive plant. Over a growing season of 150 days, cannabis plants require 1.57 million gallons per acre. This is much higher compared to other commodity crops such as cotton, maize, or wheat. Um, the second reason is energy consumption. Indoor cannabis cultivation requires a considerable amount of energy. Lighting, heating, cooling, and proper air ventilation are required 24/7 to operate an indoor facility. Such facilities can have energy requirements of 2,000 watts per minute, and this is more than 100 times the amount of an average office building. The third reason is pollution. As both Canadian and American power grids are largely dependent upon fossil fuels, the energy demand of indoor cannabis facilities contributes to greenhouse gas emissions. Additionally, studies have found that cannabis facilities release biological volatile organic compounds, which with one facility being recorded releasing 744 milligrams per day. And that amount is enough to trigger the creation of tropospheric ozone and particulate matter in the atmosphere. Also at cannabis oil extraction stations, which are quite common as these are required to make products such as creams and edibles. High amounts of butane and secondary VOCs such as formaldehyde and acrolein have been observed at these facilities. Lastly is plastic waste. The packaging of cannabis products produces a significant amount of plastic waste. The Cannabis Act regulates that cannabis products must be packaged in larger, more resource-intensive packaging due to public health. Packaging must also include large standardized labels and excise stamps, regardless of the package's volume. And cannabis producers are exceptionally risk adverse due to the market they are involved in. Therefore, they seek to shed expenses wherever they can. So they're really disincentivized to make sustainable changes, say to their packaging. And so just there, I touched on sort of indoor and outdoor. So let's kind of go over the strengths and weaknesses of both. So indoor cultivation is where you just grow it completely in a hermetically sealed environment, where you try and mimic the outdoor natural conditions where cannabis plants thrive in. So that really is the strength, is that the producer can control the environmental conditions, and therefore cannabis can be grown anywhere. Um, the weakness, of course, is just the intense resource demand. Energy consumption is insane, and also water consumption, which can't really be supplemented by, say, rainfall. Moving on to outdoor, the strength of outdoor facilities is that it uses the natural environment to its advantage. Theoretically, all a producer really needs to grow cannabis outdoors is a plot of land, sunlight, and good soil. It is therefore much less expensive and resource demanding. Much less energy is required without the need of the lights, ventilation, the heating, and cooling. And water consumption can be supplemented by precipitation. The weakness of outdoor cultivation is like other forms of agriculture, improper irrigation practices can lead to the exhaustion of local water resources. Sediment and pollutants can also be washed from the farms through runoff, contaminating waterways. If best management practices are in place, this shouldn't be the biggest problem, but once again, it's worth noting. And also, for producers, outdoor facilities in northern climates cannot grow cannabis all year round. The growing season is really only about 4 months. So for producers producing on an industrial scale, this really is a weakness of outdoor cultivation. But a positive note that is worth noting is that since 2020, the Canadian government has licensed more land for outdoor farms than for indoor farms. So moving on to my recommendations, my first recommendation would be to incentivize outdoor farming. While outdoor farming isn't perfect, it is clearly the more sustainable of the two options. Outright banning indoor facilities is impractical and would cause an outcry, but the government could incentivize producers towards the outdoors through financial assistance such as grants, infrastructure assistance, free land, tax credits, etc. A challenge with this recommendation would be the cost applied to the government. This will cut the revenue from cannabis and may lead to political opposition. Furthermore, producers fully committed to indoor facilities may take the incentives as a slight to themselves and their business and seek to move operations elsewhere outside of Canada. My second recommendation is to increase sustainability responsibility of indoor cannabis producers. So while indoor facilities are really bad for sustainability, there's still a lot of potential to improve this. And this could be done through regulating that certain sustainability goals must be met by indoor facility owners. This could include that a certain amount of the energy comes from renewables, on-site renewables such as solar panels, a green roofing system to collect water to reduce the water consumption of the facility, and carbon air filters, which are considered one of the best means of filtering VOCs. If these were installed at all the outlets of the facility, that could greatly reduce the amount of PVOC emissions coming from the facilities. The challenge with this recommendation, like pretty much all of them, is just the cost that this would cost the producer. This could once again potentially be offset by government subsidy if the need arises, but that would also be a cost to the government. My third recommendation is to introduce a producer responsibility initiative for packaging plastics. Extended producer responsibility initiatives give producers the physical and financial responsibility to manage the entire life cycle of the products, including addressing the disposal and treatment of post-consumer packaging. Introducing EPR in the cannabis industry would increase recycling rates and directly decrease plastic waste and pollution. This would incentivize producers to create more environmentally friendly packaging so their financial burden is eased. EPRs would also foster job creation. An example of a success story in Canada for EPRs is the tire industry, where it is estimated that 84 to 100% of tires are recovered thanks to EPR programming. My fourth recommendation would be to adjust packaging standardization. So by adjusting the standardization, or by adjusting the policy regulating packaging, the government could greatly decrease the amount of plastic waste being produced. Firstly, Health Canada should require packaging be made from a single non-fossil fuel material that is recyclable. This would allow for municipalities to recycle packaging more easily and economically. At the moment, packaging uses a number of materials, which is much more difficult to sort and recycle at the facilities. Secondly, packaging regulation should be changed to reduce the amount of unnecessary plastics being used in packaging, specifically redesigning packaging sizes to better accommodate the amount of product packaged and changing the necessity of child-resistant packaging. On that first point, anybody who's bought cannabis can attest just there's an insane amount of plastic being used compared to the amount that you get. Say you buy 1 gram of cannabis compared to say 10 grams of cannabis, the packaging will be quite similar, and that's just a complete waste of plastic. There's no need for the same amount of plastic that's used for 10 grams to be needed for 1 gram. And on the second point, all cannabis products must have child-resistant packaging. However, only 73% of cannabis products sold in Canada are non-psychoactive. Therefore, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense why they would need a child-resistant package, and by reducing that, that could have a substantial reduction in plastic waste. And like number two, the challenge with this recommendation is the upfront cost to the producer. However, in my opinion, out of all my recommendations, I truly believe this one is the most logical and it could have the biggest impact on the sustainability of the cannabis industry. And so, just some closing thoughts. While the state of the cannabis industry at the moment might seem a bit dire and unsustainable, I don't believe it will stay like this way forever. It's still very, very young, as this is only the fourth year of it being really in its inception, and changes are already being made, and a lot of research is beginning to be underdone. There's not a lot of research done at the moment, but there is research being done, and I can't see things staying like this way for long. I think in 10 to 15 years, the cannabis industry will be far more sustainable, which is positive. So yeah, thank you for watching my presentation, and I hope you enjoyed. Have a good one.